From the moment I came into this world, my uncle, godfather, best friend, and hero, Bernard F. Baran Jr., known to most as B, and I shared a special bond. Or as my family likes to joke, on the day you were born, we're not sure who cried the hardest, your mother or B. B drove the lady in the gift shop crazy that day because he was so excited to be an uncle that he ran up and down the stairs so many times. She finally set aside one pink bouquet and one blue bouquet. B's kind and giving nature didn't end there. When my mom found herself a single parent of 3 young children, he moved in to help us out. You see, before that, B had babysat me because my mom worked nights. But when he moved in, it was even better. There was late night dancing in the kitchen and staying up way too late eating snacks in bed watching TV. B was such a kind and natural caretaker that it was no surprise to my family when he took a job at a daycare center. One day in May of 1984, I was 5 years old, and I was getting ready to graduate from Head Start. At that time, my uncle had taken me out and bought me a beautiful long peach princess dress, and of course, a flower crown to match. The next day, he put me on the school bus. He told me how proud he was. He gave me a kiss and said that he would see me later. Later on that day, after I graduated, I ran to him beaming with pride. I jumped in his arms, and we lovingly embraced. He told me how proud I was, and I told him that all the girls were jealous of my flower crown. And thank you, because he was the best uncle ever, and I loved him so much. He looked at me and smiled his big, beautiful smile, and told me that he loved me too. A few days later, I realized that my B had not been to see me, and this wasn't like him. So I asked my mother where he was. And at that time, I was simply told that he went on a trip, but he would be back to see me soon. It was around this time, however, that I realized that my family started acting differently, somehow more fearful. One evening, when they were getting me ready for bed, our phone had rang. My mom answered it and hung up crying. She threw us in her car in our pajamas and drove us over to my grandmother's house, where the rest of my family had gathered. Of course, as kids, we thought this was great because we were up way past our bedtime. But I noticed that all the adults were standing in a circle, nervously whispering. And every time a car would speed by or lights would light up the driveway, there was silence. And in a moment, that silence was shattered by the sound of breaking glass and screaming. There was chaos, and the parents were grabbing us, running upstairs, yelling to call 911. And I just kept calling for B. Where was B? B would make it better. He always did. But what I did not realize was that the rock that had been thrown through my grandmother's window with the word faggot written on it was a message directed at my family, at my rock, my B. It would be almost a year after relentlessly begging for him that my family finally took me to see him, because I was told that he lived in a castle far away. Of course, I was anxious and excited, sitting in the back seat. I couldn't wait to see him. I missed him so much. As we drove up, and I looked up from the back seat at the dark gray stone prison walls with the razor wire on top and the guards and towers with guns, I was so confused. This wasn't the type of castle in the storybooks that B read to me at bedtime. So I said to my mother, "Mom, why does B's castle have sharp things on it? And why are there scary men with guns?" And again, I was very calmly told, Well, that's to keep the bad people out because they want to live here too, and there simply isn't enough room. Soon, I came to realize that this was the exact opposite of the truth. Because in reality, the world viewed my uncle as a horrible, disgusting child molester. I was eventually told that he was accused, tried, and convicted of child rape. He was given 3 consecutive life sentences, even though not 1 ounce of evidence was ever found. He was 19 years old, he weighed 90 pounds, and he was sent to the worst prison in Massachusetts. And the whole entire world believed that he was the scum of the earth inside and outside of prison. It wouldn't be until June of 2006 by the time that B and I were allowed to lovingly embrace again without prison guards or walls. It was the day that he was released from prison, and I was 27 years old. The next few years, as most families of the innocent do, we tried to make up for lost time. But you see, it was difficult because they still treated him like a criminal. He was made to report to probation and made to wear a GPS monitoring device, which limited the time that we had together. But the time we did have, we made the best of. There were parties and barbecues, Sunday dinners. We tried to return to some type of normalcy. My B was a courageous fighter, but unfortunately, the years of subpar, non-existent prison health care and abuse finally took a toll on him. It was on September 1st, 2014, only 5 years after he was exonerated, that he passed away while we were in his home talking. Many times people ask me, what do I hope that telling of B's story will give people, or what message I would like to send? And most of the time, I have a hard time answering that question. Until recently, one day when I was driving in the car, crying and screaming, missing B like I always do, at how unfair life can be, when my playlist shuffled to a song. And I believe it was B sending me a message of the hope, courage, and strength that he mustered every day to endure and survive 22 years in prison. And I'd like to share those words with you. I ask you today to rise up. I ask you to rise up in spite of your fear. I ask you to rise up so that we can all rise up together. I ask you to rise up 1,000 times so that at the end, there truly will be truth and justice for all. Thank you.